less than 24 hours after receiving her second dose of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. She was unable to move from the neck down.
Last month, a Tennessee woman who was left partially paralyzed after getting her second dose of the Pfizer vaccine.
Only 11 spoke with a local woman who says she lost feeling in much of her body just hours after getting Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine.
You are, as you write, one of the unlucky ones who suffered, was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome.
A BC man who says he suffered a rare COVID vaccine injury that left him paralyzed will be getting financial support from the federal government.
Now, if you got sick after taking the vaccine, what would happen if you did get sick after taking the vaccine and when you tried to get help, everyone just treated you like you were an anti-vaxxer?
The vaccine took my immune system and just shook it around again. Agony and chronic pain.
In our coronavirus coverage, a Utah woman and Utah senator are teaming up to get some answers. This comes after a group claims they've experienced life-altering injuries that they believe are from the vaccine.
A shocking reaction to the COVID vaccine. New at 5, the CDC says coronavirus vaccines have been remarkably safe and successful, and serious adverse reactions are rare.
Yeah, more people have died under COVID this year, by the way, under Joe Biden, than under you, and more people took the vaccine this year. So people are questioning how.
Well, no, the vaccine worked, but some people aren't taking it. The ones that get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the vaccine. But it's still their choice. And if you take the vaccine, you're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very good. And if you do get it, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine.
We used to go fishing, camping, do everything. We got the Pfizer vaccine because I thought it was to protect him. I thought it was the right thing to do. It was like playing Russian roulette. My government lied to me. They said it was safe. Now I go home to an empty house.
This is a simple, basic proposition. If you're vaccinated, you're not going to be hospitalized, you're not going to be in an ICU unit, and you're not going to die.
Multiple agencies are now investigating what caused his death.
CBS 13's Marissa Perlman is in Auburn with the woman who says she witnessed that man getting this shot. Marissa?
Yeah, a lot to learn about this one, Steve. First, the county posting on social media that a person was diagnosed with COVID-19 back in December and then died just hours after getting the vaccine on Thursday. This news now causing concern in this community, now questioning the safety of the COVID-19 vaccine.
And the J&J, if you look at them, particularly in things that we really care about that are important, it's got greater than 85% efficacy after severe disease and critical disease, and there were no deaths or hospitalizations in any of the countries that were tested. And remember, they tested in the United States, in South Africa, and in South America. This is a good vaccine. I think we need to pull away from this comparing and parsing numbers until you compare them head to head. Just be really grateful that we have 3 really efficacious vaccines.
Local woman says her mother died 2 days ago after receiving the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
And now she believes the dose is what caused her mother's sudden death.
Off the top at 6, the CDC is investigating the death of an Ionia County wife and mother who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
It's one small step for Emma Berkey, but one giant leap in her recovery. It's about 6 months since Berkey suffered from rare blood clots after taking the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
From smiling with her family to an agonizing hospital stay, 51-year-old Nicole Audia says the Johnson & Johnson vaccine sent her into a physical tailspin.
I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. I was out of work for 10. My heart will never be the same.
And we've got to get to this other breaking story. As we speak, the FDA and the CDC has announced that they are now recommending a pause in the use of Johnson & Johnson's vaccine.
The FDA and CDC calling for a pause in the use of the single-dose shot out of an abundance of caution.
Was a pause necessary in your view?
Yes, I believe it was necessary for a couple of reasons.
So what's going on here?
Sudden death among healthy working age people worldwide is skyrocketing.
Here in America, it was up 40% during the third and fourth quarters of 2021. Our next guest contends a 10% jump would have been a 1 in 200 year event, but this was 40%.
And so we have a health problem, a national health crisis, and at the very least, it should be examined and discussed openly. Unfortunately, the vaccine is a taboo subject, and it's not allowed to be discussed in the mainstream media or pretty much anywhere near health authorities. So this is a problem that needs to be reckoned with. We need a national discussion about it. And, if I'm proven wrong, that's great. But unfortunately, on Wall Street, when we see statistics like this, and trend changes like this, we become quite alarmed. And that's what I do for a living.
Family says the mother and grandmother was healthy before she got her shot and that her sudden death came as a shock. Eyewitness News reporter Jessica DeNova has more.
This Orange County son worries his mom died because of her second Moderna COVID-19 vaccine dose. A conversation with staff at the OC coroner's office about Griselda Flores' death raised red flags for Richard Cardenas and his family.
They made it seem like this was not the first call that they had.
And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a 13-year-old boy in Michigan who died 3 days after getting the Pfizer vaccine. The cause of death is being investigated by the CDC, and according to the patient's aunt on Twitter, the preliminary autopsy report showed that he had fluid around his heart.
And it has been almost 7 months since Abby received the vaccine. Her right arm continues to shake. After exercise, with any weight-bearing exercise, it shakes uncontrollably. All of our questions and concerns were met with uncertainty. The doctors did not know. Could Abby's injuries get better? Could they get worse as she ages? Is this the early stages of Parkinson's? No one knows, and no one has any answers. Do you know why they don't know? There are no long-term studies available. Abby is the study.
Brandy Parker McFadden is confined to her hospital bed at Vanderbilt.
Can you walk right now?
No, I can't walk. Less than 24 hours after receiving her second Pfizer COVID shot, she explains she lost her ability to move from her shoulders down.
All they know is that prior to my vaccine, I was healthy, I was whole. And then after my vaccine, I had complete paralysis of my body. I've regained the upper body strength, and I'm working towards both toes moving on left and right.
Schofield was active and healthy until about 2 weeks after receiving his second Pfizer vaccine in July of 2021.
I started to get a tingling sort of heat sensation in my left foot. And then within 2 hours, I was paralyzed from the waist down.
Both hands, they're, as you can see, they're curled in, and I don't have a lot of wrist strength. That makes obviously doing pretty much everything a challenge.
The former pilot and realtor developed a rare neurological disorder called Guillain-Barré syndrome after receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine in April of 2021.
In September last year, Hayden, like millions of others, got his first Pfizer vaccine. 2 weeks later, while he and fiancée Jax were looking at wedding venues in Nelson, he started feeling like he was having a heart attack.
I went to bed and woke up at about, I think it was about 3 a.m. with like severe chest pain. Every time my heartbeat was like a real deep stabbing pain. And I was like, babe, I'm in a bad way. I think I'm dying. And then we shot to the hospital in Nelson and we're like, oh yeah, you got pericarditis.
It's been a long road to recovery for Matty John.
It's a really uncomfortable and quite a frightening experience.
He felt like he was having a heart attack 2 days after getting the Pfizer vaccine.
I went and had the second and then it got really bad. And within about a week, I had lost, my hands didn't really work. It's there until I go to bed, and I take sleeping pills because I can't sleep because of the pain.
Brianne Dressen is a preschool teacher in Saratoga Springs who participated in the AstraZeneca clinical trial back in November.
We all knew that some people were going to draw the short straw.
And that includes her.
I'm on the bowling team from the high school, Dyer County. And I noticed when I was throwing the ball that I couldn't feel my arms or legs. So I was freaking out.
Her parents took her to see a doctor in Jackson.
When we got in finally, my doctor, my PA, told me like right off the bat what she thought it was. She was like, "You have Guillain-Barré."
In the morning, I was just looking and I thought, gosh, something is weird with my face. And I thought, whatever, I slept funny, no big deal. And by the end of the day, my husband even, I was asking him, like, this is weird now. And even with kindness, he had to say, yes, it was.
A phone consult with Gibson's doctor confirmed that she had developed Bell's palsy, a form of facial paralysis.
Sean Muldoon developed serious blood clots in April 2021 after getting the AstraZeneca vaccine. He needed emergency life-saving surgery to remove about 2 meters of his intestine. He's doing much better, but still has health challenges. He's still waiting for compensation.
My injury was confirmed to be vaccine-induced within days of my first surgery.
I'm aware of thousands of people like me across the world who have been struggling to get their doctors to work with them, to try and provide treatments or study them.
The scale of this is enormous, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I don't think the government has come to terms with the extent of it. You've got a situation here again where the Minister is blaming the service authority are blaming the Minister, and who are suffering? The victims, victims of these vaccine damage incidents, which I fear those victims are not going to go away, and nor is this issue, and I hope the government's going to address it.
My friend Katrina, she is 28 years old. She was perfectly healthy before. She only had 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine. 5 days later, she was beginning to experience brain fog. Now she's had a stroke. She's had 3 suspected heart attacks.
And she's a very good friend of yours?
Yeah.
3 people that I met in June when we had our event on vaccine injuries. And we're going to start with Stephanie, who is the mom of Maddie DeGarry. Maddie participated in the Pfizer trial for children. When she was 12, she's now 13 years old, vaccine injured. And both Bree and Maddie have tragically and unfortunately been cast aside, ignored, forgotten by the vaccine manufacturers and by our healthcare agencies. So I'm so grateful that Stephanie and Maddie, you could come here. Stephanie, why don't you tell your story?
Okay. Hi, my name is Stephanie DeGarry, and this is my daughter Maddie. When she was 12 years old, she participated in the Pfizer COVID vaccine trial for 12 to 15-year-olds at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. This is the first trial any of my kids have ever been in. I never had considered ever putting them in a trial before, but this seemed like, when they asked if they could be in it, it seemed like a win-win, So it's been over 9 months since she got her second dose. She can't walk. She's in a wheelchair. She has an NG tube for all of her nutrition. She has constant pain in her stomach, back, and neck. She was over there laying on chairs because she can't make it through this. She can't feel her legs, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. When she got her first dose, her reaction was typical. She had fever, body aches, and fatigue, and it went away in a couple days. When she got her second dose, she had immediate pain where she had gotten the injection, and the first thing she told me because her dad took her, was that didn't happen. That hurt way more than the first time, like enough to point it out. In less than 12 hours, she developed severe abdominal pain, horrible nausea, painful electric shocks on her spine and neck. Her hands were ice cold when you touched them. She had, and on her feet, pain all over her body. Her vaccine arm went numb. And I'm finding more and more stuff. You forget stuff because so much has happened to her. Like as I read through things, I keep redocumenting everything. She had chest pain, severe chest pain. The way she described it, it felt like her heart was being pulled out of her neck. Tachycardia that was actually seen on an EKG. And she was extremely dizzy, so she felt like she couldn't stand up. So we did what we were told. we called the study doctor, and they told us to go to Cincinnati Children's ER, where the trial was held, to check for appendicitis. She did not have appendicitis. They couldn't even find her appendix. What made it into the trial record is unclear. And yes, we did ask several times and have it documented. We still don't know what was actually reported. In the EUA amendment, Maddie's adverse reaction was reduced to 5 lines that they claim was eventually diagnosed as functional abdominal pain. By the data cutoff for the trial, on March 13th, Maddie experienced over 35 adverse events, different things happening to her, very similar to all the stories that you're hearing here. This happened during the trial. Some examples are blood in her urine, 7 times, decreased vision, loss of feeling from her waist down, dizziness, fainting, tremors, muscle weakness, and more. They're all available in the slides, all of her reactions. None of these were mentioned in either document. She went to the ER 9 times and was hospitalized 3 times for a total of 63 days, and this was by June 1st. Look at the dates of that article and around when this was approved. Maddie was in the hospital when the EUA was approved for 12 to 15-year-olds. The doctor did not even know it. Does your child, when they have a stomach ache, does that put your child in a wheelchair? Does your child's stomach ache require a feeding tube? Does your child spend 64 days in hospital for their stomach ache? If they did a urine test when they have a stomach ache, would there be blood in their urine? I don't think so. I thought that Maddie would be in the best hands possible. In the rare chance she has a severe reaction, that was not the case. They did everything in their power to hide everything that happened to her. And that is why this is happening to all these other people and kids. So my question is, you're hearing my story. Maddie was not kicked out of the trial. So she's still in it. By the way, so is my son, Lucas, who he was in the placebo group, and he did not get the vaccine. So they have one person, if you want to know that they can, and he hasn't had COVID. If they minimalize Maddie's reaction to the vaccine like this, I wonder what really happened to those in the clinical trials who had a reaction to the first dose. They never got to have the second dose. That means they're out of the trial. They're disqualified. I wonder what else was hidden.